Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Garrett, your host here on Vegas Pulse, stories from the back of the house. Last week we had a great guest, and the week before that, but this week's guest is a topper. This is a young man that's been in Vegas since 1969. He has seen everything, especially the fact that he's an entertainer, and he is the premier Fankie Valli tribute artist in the entire country. His name is Mr. Mark Maynard. Hello,
Hey,
Mark.
hello, Ron. How you doing?
Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me on your show.
1969, man.
Yeah.
That goes way back. I came in 71.
Okay. Well, it's a whole different world everywhere. And, of course, when I showed up in Las Vegas, I was quite a bit, obviously, the years go by way fast.
You were a young man.
I was a young man. I still kind of feel in here
Well,
that
you're still
I am.
a young man.
Yeah.
I was 27 years old when I came to Vegas.
Right, yeah. So, wow, so much has happened over the years, amazing things, and I just wanted to...
Were you singing then? Were you beginning your career back in 69?
Yes, as a matter of fact, what brought me to Las Vegas, I had been touring on the road. You know, I'll take it back a little bit if I may.
Sure.
Get out of high school, go to college for a year, get drafted into the Army for 6 years.
6 years in the Army?
Yes, sir.
I'm also a veteran.
Excellent.
4 years in the Air Force.
All right. Well, as you know, the training my training was in Fort Ord, Monterey, California, basic training. And then I had my AIT, advanced training at Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, Texas. I trained as a medical field corpsman and all of that. And then after that phase, I was involved, of course, with music and rock bands and all of that. I counted just the other day. I've been in 14 different rock band shows and all of that. Some of them we recorded some records in the Midwest, tri-state area, you know, all of that. Had a lot of fun touring. But it was a touring group out of Las Vegas called Friends of the Family, led by Rick Friedman. And I met them in the Midwest, and they hired me to be part of their group. My first big show was in Boston. I was at that point in time, what they were intrigued with...
You were living in Vegas at this time?
No, I was living in Iowa.
Iowa?
Des Moines, Iowa.
Des Moines?
Des Moines, yeah.
So you're from, what is it, Boonville? Or?
I was born and raised in Boone.
Boone.
That's about 50 miles north of Des Moines.
So you're a real country boy.
I am a country boy, yes. And a lot of my friends from back in that area are so intrigued with what I've done with my life as an entertainer and the success I'm enjoying here in Las Vegas. You know, they just really are amazed with where...
When you got to Vegas in 69, were you singing then? Did you have some gigs?
Yes, I did. And as a matter of fact, the keyboard player that was traveling with us, the group was called Friends of the Family.
Friends of the Family.
And we were traveling all over the country, and keyboard player decided to bring his family to Las Vegas. And then soon after that, I was invited to come to Las Vegas and be part of a production that was being supported by Wayne Newton.
Oh.
Wayne Newton had what we called an adopted son, and his adopted son was in the show. So I got acquainted with Wayne Newton and all of his entourage and all the people involved with the production, and I was singing. I joined the local 369 Musicians Union.
That's right, when the musicians had a
good
union.
Good union.
Good union, but not like it was.
That's exactly right.
It was very strong.
Yes.
And because there was some bent-nosed guys behind it, and they made sure that everything was strong. You ran into a few of those.
I absolutely did. Yes, I did. So I was kept busy with all of that and enjoyed many different opportunities all over the Las Vegas Boulevard, the strip hotels, the lounges, everything that was... A lot of these places aren't standing anymore, of course, you know. And so it was a great trip with all of that. Then more recently, I was invited to participate as one of the performers in Legends in Concert. And that's where the Fankie Valli thing comes in.
Fankie Valli?
As Fankie Valli. But before I could do that, Ron, I wanted to be sure that the man himself, Mr. Fankie Valli, would be approving.
Did someone say to you, hey, Mark, you sound like Fankie Valli. You need to do that?
It really did happen that way.
Did it occur to you when you were singing that was going to happen? Did it ever say, I need to do Fankie Valli?
It never did. It never did.
That's great.
You know, and it was right about that time, of course, that I was becoming involved with the family. I got married, and the family started. And I knew from the, sometimes, as you well know, entertainment industry can be very frivolous. Some contracts, before the ink dries, it gets changed around or canceled or whatever. And I needed to be sure that I provided the family with a good, strong...
There's a scene in The Godfather when you're talking about the contracts. Well, they all say that an offer you can't refuse. What really happened was he either signed that contract, your signature will be on that paper, or your brains
Right.
by the time I leave this room, so make up your mind. That was a great line.
That's right.
Anything like that happen to you?
Well,
I didn't say they're going to shoot you in the head, but, some kind of coercion.
I met directly with the founding father of the Four Seasons, Tommy DeVito, and he did kind of brush that little bit that way,
Well, he was known for that. I didn't know that till after I saw Jersey Boys, but that was his thing.
Yeah. Tommy was really cool with me, though, and a matter of fact...
He's passed away now.
Yes, right.
Yeah, recently.
His older brother, Nicky DeVito, I was entertaining here in Las Vegas, and it was at one of the big station casino properties. And I finished what I was doing, and the show was completed. And this gentleman, I had no idea who he was. He waved me over to say hello. And he said, "What is your name, kid?" And I said, "Mark Maynard." I said, "What is your name, sir?" He says, "My name is Nick." Then he paused and he said, "DeVito." Well, my jaw hit the floor. And he said, "Oh, you know who I am?" I said, "I do know who you are, sir." He says, "Well, listen, I really appreciate and enjoyed what you just did up there. That was pretty impressive." He says, "I'm wondering if my brother Tommy, have you met Tommy?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And I said, "I have met with Frankie." And I had an opportunity. I arranged to see Fankie Valli. And he said, "Oh, tell me about that." So my story with that was I contacted the Desert Inn. That's where they were performing at that time. And the Desert Inn connected me with the tour manager. John Bowers was the tour manager. And John was on the phone with me. And John says, "This is interesting, Mark." He says, "So tell me again, why do you want to meet directly with Fankie Valli?" I said, "Well, I've been told I have an uncanny likeness to him and that I deliver the songs very, very closely to what Frankie does." He says, "I'll speak with Fankie Valli. We'll get back with you soon." Okay, well, 2 hours later, the phone rings. John Bowers. He says, "I spoke with Frankie. He definitely wants to meet with you. He wants to have an opportunity to visit."
We'll find out what happened when he met with you right after we take a break here. This is Vegas Pulse with Ron Garrett. I'm talking with Mark Maynard, the #1 guy in the country who does Fankie Valli, and right now, a tribute to Frankie, and right now he's over at Modern Showrooms here in Las Vegas with his residency, which he will tell you more about. We'll be right back after this. And we're back. I'm Ron Garrett, your host on Vegas Pulse, stories from back of the house. And one of the consummate guys around town who does Fankie Valli is my guest. His name is Mark Maynard. Mark, you were just telling us in the previous segment about getting to meet Fankie Valli.
Yes, so it was really amazing, As soon as I hung up the phone, knowing that I was going to have this opportunity to meet with Fankie Valli, I ran down and bought a new suit, new pair of shoes. I got the haircut. I was ready. I kind of rehearsed a little bit more tighter, everything I wanted to show him, okay? So I went to the show. After the show, security takes me to see Fankie Valli. Frankie says, "Mark, tell me a little bit about yourself." He says, "I'm very curious about you." So I got to share with him about myself and all that.
What hotel were you at this point?
It was at the Desert Inn.
At the Desert Inn.
Mm-hmm. So I was feeling a little bit anxious because, it's Fankie Valli, my mentor. Anyway, he says, "Well, listen," he says, "if I understand this right," he said, "just tell me what this is all about." I said, "Well, sir, I want to portray you. I want to portray you and do a tribute to you and honor you and celebrate you on stage performing as yourself." Well, he had this expression like he was so curious. And I said, "You look a little surprised by this." He said, "Let me tell you something. You're the first guy to come and talk to me directly like this about this." And he said, "And I really appreciate that." He says, "That shows me some respect, and I appreciate that." And then he's got quite a sense of humor, although I don't think he was kidding around. He says, "And besides that, and he pauses, I got friends.
Got friends.
I got friends. I said, yes, sir, you have friends all over the
Friends
world.
of ours or friends of mine? You know how
Yeah,
that goes.
that's right, exactly. So anyway, he says, so before we go any further with all of this, he said, I want to know where you got that suit. I love that suit you're wearing.
Really?
Yes, it was a double-breasted Eisenhower, an interesting shade of purple, and he says, you got a
You're
nice
wearing a purple suit.
a purple suit, you know. And he likes all of this. And he says, looks like, what, you go out buy out a new pair of shoes to come and see me? He was so funny. Anyway, he was enjoying what I was presenting to him. Now he's turning to John Bowers, his tour manager, and he says, write down some notes. He said, I really like this suit, John. And so he's making notes. Now we get back on track with me, why I wanted to visit with him. He says, okay, so before I can give you a yes or no answer, I need to hear you sing. Because I'm not going to say, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He says, I'm not going to let you embarrass me, himself, or myself, his fans. He says, so give it up. Well, of course, it was a cappella. There was no music or anything. So I jumped into the song, working my way back to you, babe, which he frequently uses as an opening song. Okay. And he gives me a thumbs up and a smile, and then he stops me and he says, that's pretty damn good. But he says, I want something more than that. I knew he wanted to hear Sherry.
So you can get that high falsetto.
Yes. So I
Checking you out.
Checking me out. That's right. And I sang that Sherry for him. Now I get 2 thumbs up, a bigger smile. He says, listen, he said, I really like you. He said, I like what I just saw here. I like what I heard. And I'm going to give you my blessing. You have my permission to do this. And he said, I want you to really enjoy it. And he says, and who knows, this is what was really kind of cute. He says, who knows, you might be able to make some money doing this because I have. And we both.
Very funny.
And I said, yes, sir, you certainly have.
Well, I can't think of any other Fankie Valli person that has doing a tribute can have that story. I mean, that is the real deal right there, and it kind of gave you a blessing.
And I promised him, Ron, just like we're visiting here, I said, now I felt more comfortable to call him Frankie. He took the stress out of me. And I said, Frankie, listen, I will honor you and celebrate your life and do it as closely as I possibly can. And I'll be on your stage, in your shoes and in your skin, and that's how I want to deliver it. And he says, well, I can't ask for anything better than that. So he says, you go have fun with this. And that was when I then hooked up with Legends in Concert.
Yeah.
Now, Father Time does not stand still. And
That's you.
That's me.
However, there is a resemblance to Fankie Valli in that picture.
Yeah. So
Show it a little more to the camera.
Okay,
so
sure. Yeah.
Everybody get to see that. That's Mark Maynard as Fankie Valli, and there's
Legends.
no questions that you got it. You got it down with that.
Yeah. And now here's a kind of to wrap up the story about the suit and visiting him and everything. So I got in touch. Well, actually, Nelson Foster, who was Johnny Stewart's right-hand man, he contacted me. He heard about what I just shared with you about Fankie Valli. He said, Johnny wants to meet you. He wants you to come in doing an audition. So I did that. And I brought in a 4-song medley. It had Sherry, Big Girls Don't Cry, Walk Like a Man, Bye Bye Baby, Goodbye. And Johnny really liked it. And he said, we haven't added any new acts to the show in a long time. Fankie Valli would be an amazing personality
For
Legends. So he says, I'm going to put you in the show. I said, that's great, Johnny, but we need to talk about my family and my job. Okay. And that's where it got to where I shared with him, I'm a single father. I'm raising these kids by myself, okay? And I have a full-time job with the Clark County Parks Department. So he says, well, listen, we don't want to rock the boat or capsize anything here. I said, that's going to be my retirement, but I'll fit in when and where I can with that. So there was so much a deeper story to share on that regard as well.
Well, we're going to take a break right now.
Okay.
And we'll come back to that story. Plus, you brought some other things with you that I'd like you to share with our audience here on Hey Vegas TV. We're all over the world, 20 countries with this, Mark.
Yeah.
You're going to be seen where maybe you've probably been seen everywhere, but there might be a spot left that hasn't seen you. We'll be right back with more on the Vegas Pulse, stories from back of the house, with me, Ron Garrett, and Mark Maynard. Back right back. And we're back on Vegas Pulse, stories from back of the house. We are really hearing some great stories from Mark Maynard about backstage at many of these great, great hotels with his conversations with and interaction with Fankie Valli. Mark, show us what else you got going here.
All right. So Johnny was a good listener, and he wanted to know about my life outside.
We're talking about Johnny Stewart, the producer of
Legends in Concert,
which ran for 14 years
Yes.
at the Imperial Palace Hotel,
Right.
and went on after him at other properties.
Right. So I was invited by Johnny Stewart to do some shows for Legends, and it was a dream come true. So I said, listen, here's what I'll do, Johnny. I'll go talk with the Parks Department. Okay, I was at the landscape maintenance, that area of the work, and I did that. And they kind of smiled and they said, we saw this coming down the road, Mark. And he says, I'll tell you what, we're going to give you and provide you a leave of absence. How long do you need to be away? And I said, standard contract, at least at that point in time for Legends, was 12-week contract. Okay, you go be your little rock star for 12 weeks. Then when you get that wrapped up, you come back, you lace on those steel-toed boots, and you're back in the park, and you're taking care of whatever we direct you for. I said, it's a deal. I'm going to do it, okay? I arranged for my daughter, the youngest in the family, to be with me. She hadn't even started school yet, okay? And so anyway, we go to Atlantic City because that's where Johnny sends me. Johnny says if anybody knows Fankie Valli, I mean, that's
New Jersey.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where he's from.
Johnny's, that's Frankie's backyard, You're right. So I started with Bally's Park Place on the boardwalk. And we got into the second or third week. Now the producer of the show, everybody involved, they come to me and they say, man, we got to keep you longer. I said, no, I don't think we can do that because I'm expected back in 12 weeks. I've got a full-time job that's taking care of the family. So they said, what can we do to change that? I said, I don't know there is anything you can do. I promised the guys back there with the Parks Department, thank you so much.
A county job? Was it a county job?
Yes, sir.
And you worked in the Parks Department?
Right.
In the maintenance. You were pruning trees or something?
Pruning trees, taking care of the turf.
At the same time, you have this career.
And my children.
Your children... as Fankie Valli.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had a person actually do an interview with me about that whole, like, spinning all the plates at the same time, you might say.
That's what it was.
And I said they wanted to know, so like, well, aspiring people who are wanting to be involved with the entertainment, if they have families, if they're a single person, what do you suggest? And I said, well, to each his own. Everybody's got their own idea about that. But for me, they meaning the people with the production in Atlantic City, they went to the commissioners, the parks people, and they said, this guy Mark Maynard, he's been out here performing. We'd sure love to hang on to him a little bit longer. Could we just please do that? Well, a week later, they had their conversations and all. Johnny Stewart gets in touch with me. Hey, we arranged it. I said, what did you arrange? You're going to stay. You're going to stay a little bit longer. They ended up keeping me 5 months. And, of course, then I returned, and it was back to my familiar parks.
So you retired after 20 years, but it took you 22 years to do it?
Yes.
Because they gave you time off to be Fankie Valli.
That's right.
You got to love that.
I do love it.
I love that.
I love them for helping me out with all of that. And the kids are all young adults now.
Your kids?
My children,
Your young daughter is in your show.
That's right.
Not this one, but others.
Destiny is amazing. She's 24 right now. Right. And the kids are all doing so well. And they said, well, listen, Dad, you've paid your dues. Why don't you retire from the county now and continue to be involved? And that's where we kind of came up to this thing called...
We're going to take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I want you to tell us all about what's happening now with Mark Maynard. We'll be right back after this. You're watching the Vegas Pulse, stories from back of the house, and we're getting some good ones today. We'll be right back after this. And we're back on Vegas Pulse, stories from back of the house. I'm your host, Ron Garrett. My guest today is Mark Maynard, the #1 Fankie Valli tribute artist in the United States and maybe around the world. Mark, what a great stories you've been telling us about the real Fankie Valli. Mm-hmm. God bless him. He's in his 90s now, and I guess he's getting ready to retire, which means you have to pick up the gauntlet and be Fankie Valli when he can't be anymore.
And I'm so enjoying that I'm able to still accomplish that. You know, the falsetto takes a lot of energy, a lot of power to sing those songs. And so
You have to wear tight underwear to get those notes?
I haven't tried that yet.
Oh, yeah, I tried that. Yeah.
But I wanted to share, when I wasn't with Legends in Concert, I was doing a lot of other tribute shows with various agencies, sending me to Dallas or Fort Worth, Texas, or to California or up to Idaho, different agencies that would represent me. And marvelous, great shows that I was participating in. And we called the show Frankie's Falsetto. Okay?
Yeah, good shot.
And you can tell the hair's not so dark anymore. And I know Frankie went through a lot of different phases with his hairstyle and his dressing, all of that. So this, at that point in time, was pretty much where he was at with what he was doing. And so all of those agencies, and of course, I don't know if you know Gene and Heidi, Gene Saronin.
Oh, sure. They do jingles for me over the years.
There you go.
Always top-notch stuff.
They are, and that's why I went to their studio, Golden Song
In
Productions.
Georgia?
I did that too.
But
Yep.
when they had it here.
When they had it here in Las Vegas. And Gene is a genius,
Yes.
no pun intended, but he really is.
He is.
And Heidi as well. And so there would be these opportunities where the venue couldn't really afford a full-scale band and all of that. So a lot of entertainers understand this part of it. You would use a track music.
Mm-hmm.
And Gene would just dial it in so perfectly. All the music, all the background vocals, we worked on it together. And Heidi even became part of it when we did the song Grease. Okay, her voice is in with that as well. Anyway, they really put it together so beautifully. And I'm still in touch with them and all of that. But yeah, I was
And right now, you have a good gig.
I have,
you have a residency.
I have a great gig, and this is what we're talking about here. All right, it's called Forever Frankie, and it's over there at the Modern Showrooms there at the Alexis Park Resort, and I'm performing Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays. Those 3 evenings. 5 o'clock is the start time on the show.
And you're getting good crowds, I understand.
That's right,
Yeah.
we are. We're getting real good crowds. A lot of fun crowds. They love the music. They love the energy. The band that's supporting me, they're amazing. I'm just really proud of everything that we're doing over there.
Mark, thank you so much for coming out today, coming over here to the studios of Hey Vegas TV.
This is great. I love it.
Isn't it great?
It is,
This
really.
is our little conversation booth that we have here.
Yeah.
It's not the cone of silence, if you remember that from the old days, because we're here to talk.
Yes, sir.
But you are great. I want you to come back. You've got more stories, and you can give us more information about the great Fankie Valli. Thank you, everybody, for watching Vegas Pulse, Stories from Back of the House. I'm your host, Ron Garrett. Thank you to Mark Maynard, and we'll have another show next week with another great guest. Bye-bye.